In this session we're going to use our knowledge of the properties of 3D shapes to be able to construct different 3D shapes. Now for this lesson it would be good if you were able to have some sticks or cocktail sticks or straws to hand and some form of marshmallow or Play-Doh plasticine or clay to join them up so that you can actually help make these models. In our textbook we begin with our image of Lee and Bella creating different things out of the cubes they have. And for question 1A we're asked who can make a cube by putting together their smaller cubes. So now that Lee's got the orange cubes and Bella's got the red cubes, which of them could make a cube? So think about how many cubes each child has and think about how we can link that knowledge and thinking about the properties of a cube to be able to work that out. Then for question 1B, Lee thinks he can make 5 different cuboids using all his small cubes. Is he correct with this? So again, think about what a cuboid is and think about the different ways you can create it based on the amount of cubes that Lee actually has. So for our very first set of questions we've got 1A, who can make a cube by putting together their smaller cubes? Is it Lee? Is it Bella? Is it both? Or is it neither? And for question 1B, Lee thinks he can make 5 different cuboids using all of his small cubes. Is he correct? Pause the video and see whether you can answer those 2 questions and come and join me when you're ready to talk about the strategies you've used. So let's begin by looking at question 1A. Who can make a cube by putting together their smaller cubes? So let's just remind ourselves on what a cube is first. A cube is a 3-dimensional shape that has 6 square faces. So that means if it's a square, all 4 sides are going to be exactly the same size. So 6 faces made up of squares. Now let's have a look at how many cubes they both have. So let's start with Bella. Bella has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 cubes already. And she's going to put those cubes together to make a larger cube. Let's see whether she can possibly do it. And here we can see that if Bella uses half her cube for one level and the other half for a second level, she would have 4 cubes on each bit. So we can see our image of a cube which is 2 squares high by 2 squares wide. So each side is exactly the shape of a square, so each face is square shaped. Let's see whether the same is true of Lee's. Because with Lee we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cubes. Let's see if we can make a cube from 6. And here we can see that Lee can't make 2 layers of the same amount of cubes to make that larger cube. So in this case we've got 4 cubes at the bottom, which leaves him with the 2 remaining. The only other way that you could try and make it would be 3 cubes at the bottom, 3 cubes at the top. Again, this wouldn't give us 6 square faces. So from 6 cubes, Lee cannot make a larger cube. Whereas Bella can make a cube out of the 8 cubes that she has. So let's move on to question 1B. And in this one we're asked, Lee thinks he can make 5 different cuboids using all of his small cubes. Is he correct? Now we realise that a cube has 6 square faces. A cuboid has 6 faces as well, but these could be rectangles or squares. And our job now is going to be trying to create 5 different shapes which are going to have faces which are going to be rectangles or squares. And when Lee makes it we can see he's got 5 different shapes. He's got our first one is made up of 2 rows of 3 cubes side by side. His second cuboid is made up of 2 columns of 3 cubes side by side. His third cuboid is 3 columns of 2 cubes side by side. Lee's fourth cuboid is made up of 6 cubes side by side. And his fifth and final cuboid is made up of 6 cubes, one on top of each other. So do you agree that Lee has made 5 different cuboids? Pause the video, have a little think, and come and join me when you've had a chance to think. And the answer is no. If we look at these two cuboids, we had 6 cubes side by side and 6 cubes one on top of the other, but they're actually the same cuboid, just lying down in different ways. With our second set, again, we've got 2 rows of 3 side by side, we've got 2 columns of 3 side by side, or 3 columns of 2 side by side, but we're actually getting exactly the same, which is 2 cubes by 3. So this is just a second cuboid. So in answer to question 1b, Lee is not correct. He can only make 2 different cuboids. He might think he can make 5 because he's shown them from different angles by placing different faces on the table. But they're in fact just 2 shown in 5 different ways. So now we've explored a little bit more about the properties of 3D shapes and how we can use these to help construct them. Now it's time to start moving on to the rest of the questions in our textbook. So for our first Think Together, you're going to be making some cubes using some different construction materials. Now hopefully these will be things that you'll be able to find lying around. So for example, cocktail sticks, lolly sticks, whatever it is you can find. And you're going to be thinking about how many of each bit you need in order to construct a cube. So for example, if we looked at our first image where we're seeing that we have the interlinking squares, how many of those do you think are needed to make a cube, thinking about the idea of faces? How many sticks do you need to make the edges of a cube? And then finally, how many marshmallows would you need in order to make the corners? Potentially with the edges and the vertices, the corners, that could be the time when you're going to be using the equipment to be able to do it. With regards to the interlinking squares, that's when you'll be visualizing this. So give that a go. Move on to the rest of the questions, looking at the properties of 3D shapes and creating them in your textbook. And then once you're ready with that, then you're ready to move on to the independent work in your workbook. Good luck with this. I really look forward to seeing how you get on applying your knowledge of the properties of 3D shapes to these construction ideas. Good luck, and I look forward to seeing your work.